In 9th century China, Taoist alchemists were driven by a singular, almost mystical goal: to unlock the secrets of immortality. Their quest was not for destruction or conquest, but for eternal life and spiritual enlightenment. Through countless experiments, they combined sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter, believing these ingredients might hold the key to everlasting existence. Instead, their search led to an explosive discovery: gunpowder, known as huoyao, or fire medicine. The first accidental explosion startled and terrified the alchemists, but word of this powerful substance quickly spread. The Song dynasty's military soon recognized its potential to change the face of warfare. Early gunpowder weapons, like fire lances, bamboo tubes that spewed flame and sparks, were designed more to shock and intimidate than to kill outright. The sight and sound alone could break enemy morale. The psychological impact was immense. Enemies, unaccustomed to such terrifying sights and deafening roars, often fled in panic before the battle had truly begun. Over generations, Chinese engineers and inventors refined gunpowder technology, creating grenades, rockets, and the world's first crude cannons. Each innovation pushed the boundaries of what was possible in battle. These inventions marked a turning point, shifting warfare from the age of muscle, sword, and steel to an era defined by chemistry, fire, and explosive force. The formulas for gunpowder became some of the most closely guarded secrets in China, protected by the Song and later the Ming dynasties. Only a select few were entrusted with this dangerous knowledge. With gunpowder, China gained a powerful edge over its enemies, defending its borders with weapons the world had never seen. But secrets, no matter how well protected, have a way of slipping out. Manuals were locked away in hidden vaults, and knowledge was carefully compartmentalized to prevent leaks. Still, the allure of such power was impossible to contain forever. Eventually, the Mongols and other outsiders would breach these defenses, carrying the secret of gunpowder beyond China's borders and into the wider world. The dragon's fire, once caged within China, was destined to spread across continents, igniting change wherever it went. What began as a humble quest for eternal life became the catalyst for a new era of warfare, one that would reshape the fate of nations and empires. As gunpowder knowledge traveled along trade routes and through conquest, the world would never be the same again. The accidental weapon had set history ablaze, forever altering the balance of power. The age of gunpowder had begun, ushering in centuries of innovation, conflict, and transformation. And its echoes, born from a search for immortality, would soon be heard far beyond China, shaping the destiny of the entire world. For centuries, China kept gunpowder's secrets under strict imperial control. The bureaucracy, valuing order over innovation, limited its use to state arsenals. Weapons were produced for defense, not conquest, and knowledge was fragmented among artisans. The emperor feared empowering rivals or the masses with such destructive power. Gunpowder was used to defend city walls and repel steppe invaders, not to build empires abroad. Social hierarchy also played a role. Engineers and merchants had little influence compared to scholar officials. There was no arms industry pushing for constant improvement. Innovation was slow, measured, and always sanctioned by the state. China's unity and defensive focus kept gunpowder contained. But this monopoly was fragile. The world beyond China was about to change. Gunpowder's secret seeped westward along the Silk Road, carried by merchants, Mongol armies, and diplomats. The Mongol conquest spread Chinese siege engineers and their weapons across Asia. The Islamic world quickly adopted and improved gunpowder arms, using them in battles from Egypt to Persia. Arab and Persian scholars translated and refined the technology, passing it further west. By the 1300s, gunpowder reached Europe, sometimes through Mongol lands, sometimes via Islamic Spain or Mediterranean trade. At first, Europeans saw it as a curiosity, but soon cannons appeared on battlefields. In fragmented, war-torn Europe, the new weapon spread rapidly. No central authority could contain it. The slow Chinese fuse had reached Europe's powder keg. In Europe, the arrival of gunpowder ignited a relentless and unpredictable arms race that would reshape the continent forever. Dozens of rival kingdoms and city-states, each wary of their neighbors, scrambled to outgun each other in a desperate bid for survival and dominance. Once one city acquired cannons, all others had to follow or risk being left defenseless, their walls shattered by the new technology. Warfare became a constant threat, driving rapid, decentralized innovation as every region sought an edge. Blacksmiths and alchemists across Europe raced to build better cannons, stronger powder, and more reliable firearms, experimenting with new designs and formulas. Medieval castles, once symbols of security, crumbled before the onslaught of artillery, forcing a revolution in the very concept of fortification. The star-shaped Trace Italienne replaced old stone walls, its angled bastions designed to deflect cannon fire. But these new forts were massive undertakings, costly and complex. Only the most powerful and wealthy states could afford such defenses, concentrating military and political power at the very top of society. Unlike in China, Europe's warrior aristocracy eagerly embraced gunpowder, fueling a culture obsessed with military innovation and technological progress. The arms race became self-perpetuating. Deadlier weapons led to more decisive, destructive wars, which in turn spurred even greater innovation and ambition. Europe became a laboratory of destruction, its landscape scarred by constant conflict and experimentation. The experiments were just beginning, as inventors and rulers alike sought the next breakthrough. The state itself was being remade by war, its institutions and priorities shaped by the demands of perpetual conflict. And as the centuries passed, the pace of this arms race would only accelerate, setting the stage for the modern world. The gunpowder arms race was ruinously expensive, draining the treasuries of kingdoms and empires across Europe. The cost of maintaining and upgrading armies with the latest technology soared to unprecedented heights, putting immense pressure on rulers to find new sources of revenue. Cannons and muskets demanded more money than feudal levies or plunder could provide. The old ways of funding war, relying on the spoils of conquest or the service of vassals, were no longer enough to keep up with the relentless pace of military innovation. Rulers turned to new taxes on land, trade, and property, building complex bureaucracies to collect them efficiently. Taxation became more systematic, reaching deeper into the lives of ordinary people than ever before. War forced the creation of the modern fiscal state, as governments expanded their reach and administrative power to meet the demands of constant conflict. When taxes fell short, monarchs borrowed from powerful banking families, forging new alliances between rulers and financiers that would shape the future of Europe. National debts and government bonds tied financiers' fortunes to the state's survival, intertwining the fate of nations with the rise of modern finance. The ability to tax and borrow became as crucial as battlefield tactics, turning financial acumen into a weapon of war. States that mastered finance could field bigger, better armies, and win, outlasting their rivals through superior resources and organization. The fiscal military state was born, fueling a feedback loop of war, taxation, and debt that would define European politics for centuries. Institutions like the Bank of England emerged to fund war on an unprecedented scale, revolutionizing how states managed money and power. The price of power was astronomical, and the stakes had never been higher for those who sought to rule. War was now a contest of economic systems as much as armies, with prosperity and military might becoming inseparable. The gunpowder revolution had created the modern state, forever changing the balance of power in Europe and laying the foundations for the world we know today. The numbers were staggering. A single cannon could cost as much as a warship. Armies grew from thousands to tens of thousands. Equipping, paying, and supplying these forces strained state budgets to the breaking point. By the 1600s, rulers like Charles V and Louis XIV spent half or more of their revenues on war. National debts soared as states borrowed to keep armies in the field. The state became a machine for waging war, with all else secondary. Financial efficiency became a weapon. Detailed budgets, audits, and new taxes gave some states an edge. The Dutch Republic, with its financial innovations, punched above its weight. The cost of power was paid in taxes, debt, and bureaucracy. The gunpowder age had made war and the state bigger than ever. The gunpowder revolution's legacy shapes our world today. The cycle of military innovation, rising costs, and state transformation continues. Cannons and muskets have become stealth jets, drones, and AI. The F-35 fighter program, costing over $1 trillion, echoes the old arms race. Only a few nations can afford it. Military power still depends on economic strength and organizational capacity. Today's arms race is over AI, quantum computing, and biotech. The fiscal military state, born in the gunpowder age, remains essential. The lesson endures. Technological advantage is fleeting, but economic power sustains it. The ultimate weapon is not a cannon or an algorithm, but a resilient, dynamic economy. The script of war, written in powder and fire, is still being followed. Only the tools have changed.